Greetings, lovers of democracy and to the global majority. Welcome to this week's edition of the PD16 Perspective. I am John Reid, the editor of the PD16 Perspective, and thank you all so much for coming and enjoying our first episode. In this week's edition, Governor Glenn Youngkin has already declared war on Black history. He's also declaring war on Black History Month. Also, we have new candidates who are running with new congressional districts. We're going to talk more about them as well in this show. Also, in addition, we have an interview with Juanita Shanks, founder and CEO of Failsafe-ERA, and what she is doing to restore relationships between the released citizens and their families. In this week's edition of One to Grow On, we're going to talk about the Stafford NAACP and how through education and application, they are changing the way we look at critical race theory. Governor Glenn Youngkin has already been under fire since he began his administration. Those may know from when he first started, his first executive order was trying to eliminate the term divisive concepts, such as critical race theory in classrooms. In addition to his mask mandates, as part of his 11 executive orders, he's already come up with a tip line as well, a tip line which he refuses to reveal the emails that have come out in addition, and also revealing some of the sources and information from where he's getting these emails from. But it seems now, as we enter Black History Month, the governor has now declared war in a different way. I'm going to read you a report from VPN. We heard this from the NPR recently. And there was a report in which there was a project that was spanning through two Democratic administrations. And it was based upon restoring items that belonged to enslaved people that were supposed to be put up in the executive mansion. I'm going to read this report. Historian and archaeologist Kelly Dees arrived to work at the executive mansion, where she is mentioned, and it was to help restore items that demonstrated for people from the enslaved times, whether it was art, it was other works, writings, and what have you. But it had been removed, and she doesn't even know now if she's going to be able to be working at the executive mansion. This is only part of what the governor has already instilled. And if you notice something, that already when it comes to his terms of diversity and inclusion, one term that's being left out is the word equity. Now, if you remember, that was a term that former Governor Ralph Northam used consistently, even after he was found with the blackface scandal that he worked with in installing the state's first diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, and Dr. Janice Underwood. And one of the things that we're starting to see already is the terminology and how that's been used. So it will be very interesting to see as time goes on what will take place with Governor Youngkin, and is he trying to remove Black history? In local news, we have two candidates who are declared they're running for the seats. Spotsylvania District County Supervisor David Ross recently announced that he will be running in the new 7th District, joining a crowded field of Republicans who are looking to assure 7th District current congressional candidate and Democratic candidate Abigail Spanberger, who already is in the running, and now she is the lone Democrat as of this time. Also, in addition, in the 27th District for the Senate seat, former HBCU graduate and lawyer Ben Litchfield has also announced he will be running as well. And his agenda is based upon restoring the middle class. And we're looking forward to having an interview with him soon in this episode, a future episode, I should say, of the PD16 Perspective. And one of his focus is on helping to not only restore the middle class, but also work hard for voting rights as well, which is a critical issue in these districts. Criminal justice reform has been an issue that has long been at the heart of PD16. And in today's show, what we're going to do is we're going to be interviewing Juanita Shanks, who shares her personal story of how she had to help someone deal with criminal justice reform, able to get out into the system and restore them with their families. Through Failsafe-ERA, she's been able to help many people get a second chance at life. And not only be able to do that, but also be re-enter into society with the job skills and other skills necessary in order to succeed. So we thank Juanita Shanks for the opportunity to interview her, and we hope you enjoy her story. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on the PD16 Perspective. My name is John Reid and the host of this program. And joining me right now is a very special guest. It gives me great honor to introduce Ms. Juanita Shanks, the president of Failsafe. And Juanita, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. And I am wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much.
And so as this show is airing, we're talking about the criminal justice reform. And that's one of the biggest issues that face not only here in PD16, but across the country. But I really want to try to give this opportunity to really talk about your extraordinary efforts with Failsafe. And for those who may not know, could you just kind of give a high-level overview of what that organization is about?
Yes, absolutely. So Failsafe-ERA since 2009, Failsafe-ERA was established in 2009 as a result of my walk through the criminal justice system with my son. And so it was established again in 2009. It was initially established as a support group for family members because that's what I was. But we soon had to learn that family members are ashamed. They are not coming out. They do not want to talk about it. And so we had to back door to in to get to the families. And then that made us realize that we needed to look at the whole family. So we decided that in 2009, we will be providing reentry support services, solutions, and strategies to the residents of Planning District 16. So that means we are supporting the inmate, we say returning citizens, we do not call them formerly incarcerated. We're providing support to the returning citizens and also the family members that have been impacted by incarceration. And our programs offer a reformative strategy, and we also empower hope, because we want these guys and gals to understand that you have made some decisions, you have made some bad decisions, you have made a mistake, but that's not the end of the road for you. That's not the end of life for you. There is hope for your future. And so our programs, we have two major programs that we operate in this area, or that we offer to the residents, to the inmates, to the returning citizens, and also to the family members. Those two programs are our Right Road, tricky words together, our Right Road reentry program, and also Caring Connections to prevent generations of incarceration. So in our Right Road reentry program, it encompasses two other programs, two training programs. One is Courage to Change. Courage to Change is an evidence-based criminogenic risk, and it's based on individuals' criminogenic risk and needs, but it's an evidence-based interactive journaling program that we offer on a weekly basis to the returning citizens, so that they are able to come into an environment and learn how to take responsibility for their actions. They have an opportunity to learn how to manage their time in a responsible way. Again, this is based on their criminogenic risk. So whatever it was their crime, that would be then the training program that they will be assigned to. We have case managers that work with our returning citizens. So they work with them. They set goals, action plans, determine, conduct an assessment, determine what you may have been dealing with that may have caused you to commit this crime. And then we enroll them in our training program and the Courage to Change program. In addition to the training program, and is specifically, well, let me just talk about the other training program first. The other one is Transformed and Empowered Life Skills. So this is a 3-day training, very intensive training. This is where the individuals are learning resiliency skills, how to be more resilient. Well, we're talking about emotional intelligence, how to build relationships. Then on the last day, we're talking about how to navigate workplace challenges so that they can understand how to operate in the world of work. We have conduct mock interviews. We help them build resumes. We bring in the employers and help them to get a job. Now, in addition to those training programs in the Right Road program, we also recognize that mental health and substance misuse, abuse are some of the other challenges. So we do offer access to those areas as well. We partner with community locations or organizations to provide mental health and substance misuse. We recognize that individuals that are incarcerated, once they are released, once anybody has been incarcerated, you can't let people out and expect for them to be okay. We as human beings are not made to be locked up.
Right.
And so we think mental health is, we include mental health in our Right Road program.
And it's important. Thank you for bringing that part up, because I think what happens so often is we forget about taking care of the whole being, and we know, especially in the neighborhoods of the global majority, Black and brown communities, we know that a lot of people are unjustly incarcerated. And
Absolutely.
they come out of the unfair prison system and realize that, well, maybe the world is against me. So there's this anger, there may be this bitterness and the resentment. And so, I'm glad you brought up the part about the mental healing, because I think that's something where someone who's been unfairly and unjustly incarcerated for so long comes out and they feel they're displaced, or they don't know their place in the world. And sometimes, to quote an old verse, that they say it's more free to be locked up in the pen than is in the real world.
Yes.
But your program gives them that opportunity. So can you talk about, from the things that you offer, from the journaling, from the resume building, and just the caring connections, what would you largely say, maybe a percentage or so, the success rate of what Failsafe has done?
Failsafe-ERA, and I am proud to say that we have an 88% success rate with our clients. And I really am. This is, like, for me, it's very personal. It's not a job.
Yes.
It is my purpose. It's my purpose. And so we pay attention to people, and we really want to help people. And that's really what people want. Nobody wants to be unsuccessful. Nobody wants to continue to commit a crime. I get it that some people are institutionalized. Some people have not been properly healed from whatever trauma that could be causing them to constantly commit these crimes. They have not maybe been healed from the substance misuse. But nobody really wants to commit a crime, go to jail, and that's my life. Family members, it is not, wasn't my goal for my son to grow up and become a criminal. Basically that's what the word is, right? I don't particularly like to say that, but he dealt with substance misuse and abuse. And so had he been able to get I believe, the proper treatment, then he would have had a better chance. He passed away last year in January. But yeah, thank you. But the fight goes on. One of the things he said to me is, "Mom, I'm good, but keep fighting for all the others." And so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to keep fighting for all the others, and I'm going to continue to fight to prevent generations of incarceration, because he left 2 kids behind. He left a 17-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so that generational curse stops there. They're not going down that road. And then that's what we do in Caring Connections, is to prevent generations of incarceration. This is where we are working with the family members, and especially the children. We have a program where we offer social emotional training to the children in the school system, and then also a program in the community for women and girls. Well, actually, the program is called WIGS, the Women Inspiring Girls, but it's for girls ages 13 to 18, because there has been an increase in female incarceration. And so we want to catch these teenagers before they come into our program.
And one thing I want to ask, and you talked about this earlier, that in order for Failsafe-ERA to come together, it involves the community. I know some of your partners involved in the Spotsylvania Sheriff's Police and some Stafford Public Schools. What was it like getting the buy-in from the communities, from those organizations, in order to see these programs come to pass?
You know what? I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest, when, because of the recent legislation that's releasing 14,000 plus inmates by July of this year. We know that at least 8 to 10% of that number will be coming to Planning District 16. And also because of President Trump's First Step Act that's already released and will continue to be releasing thousands of federal inmates. But because of that, because of the recent legislations and the pandemic, we expanded our efforts by launching or forming a criminal justice reform task force that has on this task force the Commonwealth attorneys, we have the county board of supervisors, probation and parole, the jail, we have one judge on it, we have Germana. So we have the leaders in the communities. And when I went out to them and I said, look, this is what's happening. Would you join us? Would you, walk alongside Failsafe, help us to develop a criminal justice reform model in planning District 16, that when those guys and gals come back out here, they'll have resources, they'll have tools to become successful, so that we can also look at how we can prevent generations of incarceration, so that we can also look at not trying to incarcerate our way out of every situation. So we're looking at alternative sentencing solutions. I was pleasantly surprised at, the mayor's office, that all of those people said yes, and they're still on the task force. So we have, I'm very, very pleased with the numbers of people that's participating on that task force. And so we're moving forward. And my goal, in my mind, we want to be the example for our community, the example for the state, and the example for the world.
Absolutely. Let me thank Failsafe-ERA joining us. And so, I want to take it back for just a moment, because you said, this organization started, as a support group, but you have a personal stake in it. And so, when you dealt with what you said with, with your late son, how were you able to go through this? Can you talk about, the faith that it required to see this come to pass and where it became today?
God is the only way through. I did not know that at the time in 2009, because my walk where I am now, my faith is my anchor. But I was not where I was then, where I am today. But I remember hearing, and I mean, almost audibly, like a small whisper in my ear that says, you get up and you help somebody who's experiencing what you're helping. I'm like, oh, what do you want me to start an organization, or what do you want me to do, God? Because it was my pain that determined my purpose. I had no idea what I was doing then. All I knew is that I needed somebody to help me. I needed somebody to help me to understand. I, at the time, was a federal government employee. I retired in 2017, and I was, a pretty high grade employee, manager in the government. But all of that time, no one ever knew I had a child that was incarcerated or that was in prison. And when they would ask, how your kid's doing, they're fine, he's in school. Well, but they did not know he was in the school of hard knocks. He was learning what not to do. They didn't go into details, neither did I. I was ashamed. And so I continued to try to push hard to have this support group move forward. And it was as if, again, God was talking to me saying, everybody needs to help. It's not just you. The entire family needs that help. And so I began, I went to the jail to talk to them about how can I just get into the jail so that I can get in touch with these inmates, because that's all I needed, was to get in touch with the inmates so the inmates can put me in touch with their family members. Didn't work that way. You had to come in as a ministry. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm not a minister. And so I went to my church and I said, okay, do we have a prison ministry? How can we get a prison ministry? That's the only way I can get in the jail. And then I would just piggyback on top of the minister that I would go in with. And so we signed up. Church signed us up to have a prison ministry to go into the jail. And I would go in and I would have a partner that would take control of the ministry side. And until one day she didn't show up. And because in my mind, my goal was to, you do the ministry side and I do my testimony, and I'll tell these guys and gals what my son did, what he went through, and how he's doing now, because he did get better, but for a little while, and how he's doing, and how that they don't want to continue to live this lifestyle. And what I learned in all of this was that these guys have nothing but time on their hands. And it was much easier for me to go in and minister to the guys. And that's who I really minister to most of the time, were to the men. And they have nothing but time on their hands. And so me thinking that I was going in there to do some ministry with these guys, when they're in there reading the Bible from front to end. And so they're going to challenge me with some questions. And so I had to become a little, I'd start getting brushed up on my Bible. And so that helped me to grow my faith even the more, helped me to learn my word even the more. And so I continued to go in for about a couple of years, until I was able to get another person on our team, to Pastor Phyllis Brantley. She's with Restored Through Faith Ministries now, but she went in and she took over the ministry side of Failsafe. And then, and as we progressed on, throughout all of that, I think I always knew this, but I had to say it out loud. Failsafe-ERA is not a prison ministry.
Mm.
It's my personal ministry, but it is not a prison ministry. So what we do in the jail is offer them the same thing we offer them out here, which is pre and post release, evidence-based, criminogenic risk, cognitive behavioral therapy, so that they can come back out here and become better. And really and truly, we need to catch them while they're in there. And so, so it was just a transition. Me going into the jail, thinking that I was going to just give my testimony and come out of there, and turned it into more of a ministry side. And then we transitioned out into the communities. And one thing, what we learned is everybody's not going to believe what I believe, and I'm okay with that. Right. And everybody's not going to want any of it, and I'm okay with that also, because I'm the example that they can see of the Christ that I believe in. And so if that's what they want, then we have it. You can have it. But if that's not what you're looking for, what we also learn is that people don't really want that first. Many times they really don't want you to talk about what Jesus can do until you can help them. Exactly. And so, so we have to, so we are, it's my personal ministry, but it is a secular nonprofit organization based on Christian principles.
Absolutely. And I've already brought that up because we know in the New Testament, Jesus performed the miracles first before he did the ministry. And so he put the action into existence first. So people saw that the outside man was taken care of before the inner man could be as well. Absolutely. And so your organization, is, and for yourself, being that salt and light. And I want to go into this. As you just stated, last month, one of the former governor of Northland's last acts was to release 14,000 inmates, and they were able to come back into society. Are there any concerns with the new administration that there could be restrictions on who gets released and gets a second opportunity?
Yes, because yes, we know with change, that's definitely possible. And I want to know, can they rescind any of this? Will this still happen? But until we know something, we're preparing for them to come out. I don't, know enough about the law to know whether or not he can rescind the law that was put in place, the legislation that was put in place. So yes, there is some concern about that, because here again is where we get these guys and gals' hopes up, and then you let them down. And that is unfortunately what continues to hammer them, to give them, to make them feel hopeless and helpless. And as if there's here we go again. And so we need to get to, I don't like titles. I don't like Democrats, Republican, and I don't like any of that kind of stuff, because I think this is where we unfortunately hang our hats on that. How about we just become human beings?
Exactly. The way government was designed for, it was supposed to be by human beings for human beings, without partisan divide. And that has really been an issue, especially when it comes to criminal justice reform. It's been such an extremist approach on both ends. And so I want to bring home with this. And we talk about, with all the success that Failsafe-ERA has done, and all the lives it impacted, both for those citizens, second chance citizens, and for their families. What challenges still remain when it comes to criminal justice reform, and what can be done within Planning District 16 to see that we can have a greater number of people get that second chance?
So I would say that our biggest challenges are, one, housing. There is not any affordable housing, so to speak. So when these guys and gals are released from jail and or prison, many times we've had to put them in hotels because there's nowhere for them to go. Housing is our biggest challenge. So we need some form of housing out here to help these guys and gals. Another challenge I would say is changing the mindset of the community and helping the community to understand that they're coming home. Whether it is the early releases, it is the everydays that are going to come back home, they're coming back into our backyards. What are we doing about it? We know that we cannot save the whole world, but if we can save one person at a time, and then that person saves another person and another person and another person, then we're doing something. So we need to change the mindset of our communities. But those who say just lock them up and throw away the key. Well, until it happens to you, do you think like that? And it can happen to anybody at a moment's notice. There are people. I remember talking with a young lady who she's since passed, but she was convicted of murder, and she was convicted of murder. She was fully exonerated after 10 years, but she was convicted because she looked like somebody. So you're guilty until proven innocent because she looked like somebody. She had to go through the whole process. So, so that's another change. Another change that we need to make is it needs to become an investment. We need to invest. We need to invest in Failsafe-ERA. I said it, but we need to invest in Failsafe-ERA because we are here. We are willing to roll up our sleeves. We have the heart, the passion for this work. Everybody on our team, and we are an all-volunteer organization with about 30 volunteers. We're going to run out of that in a little bit, though, if I can't begin to start paying people. But these guys and gals have the passion to want to give somebody a second chance. So we need to invest in the services that we have. Now, we are getting grants, we get donations, we get funding from other different sources. We have multiple streams of income, but we need to, I would say for Planning District 16, the county boards of supervisors need to pay attention to the work that we're doing and invest in the work that we're doing because we're here to help our community. And if we are unable to continue to do the work because we don't have the proper funding, human and or financial resources, we go away, who's going to do it?
Absolutely. And that's the work that you're doing is so powerful and so needed in Planning District 16. Real quick, where can people find Failsafe-ERA and how can they get in touch with you to be able to help and donate to your work?
So we are on all the social media platforms. We are on the web at www.failsafe-era.org. We're located, our physical location is 10304 Spotsylvania Avenue in Suite 100, which is inside the Virginia Career Works building. And you can email us at failsafe-era at gmail.org. I had to remember my email address. Or they can also call us at 540-479-3021.
Shanks, you are truly doing the Lord's work. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. This is Juanita Shanks of Failsafe-ERA. This is a PD16 perspective. We will be right back. Finally, in this week's edition of One to Grow On, Stafford NAACP recently held a virtual forum called Educate to Advocate. It was held by Bishop Leonard Lacey and by Dr. Loretta Daniels. And one of the critical issues he talked about was critical race theory and how it needs to be taught because so much misinformation has been put out. And so one of the responses that we're going to talk about is going through critically responsive teaching, which classrooms can easily use in order to learn about how to help students leverage their cultural competency. Understand students from where they come from, understand their background, understand that everyone learns through a different lens. And if we're able to do that, we're able to have a more equitable and understanding classroom where we can have more deeper conversations and understand that critical race theory does deal with issues of poverty, police brutality, and voter suppression and how that can be dealt with. So we'll get a chance to join. We'll put the link on our PD16 Perspective webpage. And I hope you enjoy. And finally, the Stafford NAACP Youth Council will be meeting on February the 11th. And they'll be also meeting with the Robert Hannock Library as well. It's the PD16 Perspective. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.